No pain, no gain, right? That's what we've always heard. And somehow it's made its way through every fitness and wellness circle everywhere. Suddenly, if you haven't pushed yourself to your absolute limits, you feel like you could have done more. And we've started to treat pain like it's a badge of honor. And quite frankly, it's not. I remember when I first got into fitness and I would go to the YMCA and do about 30 minutes on a treadmill and then try lifting some like heavy weights. It was like 30 pounds, but whatever. For 30 to 60 minutes, I was not doing it correctly. I was not engaging my core or doing anything good in this life. But I'd follow it up with a 1 hour power yoga session before even leaving the gym. And I left dehydrated and without any food during my hour ride home on the bus. It was bad. It was so bad. I look back now and I cringe so hard because I was in so much pain weekly and I would just go back for more. Every week I would just go back for more. I thought I was getting stronger and I thought the more sore I was and the more I could barely move, that meant that I was doing well. But I saw my peers and they were fine. Like they were lifting heavier than me and they were running faster than me and they were super energetic and they seemed fine and not sore. When I was very sore and I wasn't doing nearly as good as them, so I thought. And I got caught in the comparison trap, which of course did not help anybody. And I see it all the time. I have students who tell me that they were sore for days, super happily, I might add. And I hear personal trainers still preaching about pushing past your limits, like some kind of like physical and mental tests. People everywhere are pushing their bodies to do more. And I'm not here to say the soreness is bad because it isn't, but pain definitely is. And there's a big difference. This isn't about fixing yourself. It's about learning how to live life on your own terms. Welcome to the Unusual Yogi Podcast, a space for living, moving, and resting beyond the wellness norms. I'm Meaghan, and I'm your host, and we have honest conversations about chronic pain, movement, rest, and what it means to live in a body that doesn't always follow the rules. So looking back, I could see how much I pushed myself just to keep up with everyone else and what they were doing. I tried to lift weights without proper form, without proper engagement. I tried to run without understanding how to breathe or even foot placement. And something notorious that I see all the time for a lot of people is I try to force my body into poses in yoga classes that it was not ready for. And you know what? Didn't make me stronger, didn't make me flexible, didn't make me faster. It made me injured. It injured me a few times and it made me progressively more and more scared to move. So I think something important and what I'd like to mainly discuss today is the difference between pain and soreness. And that goes into explaining what delayed onset muscle soreness even means. We call it DOMS in the fitness industry. And it's that stiffness or tenderness that you feel about 24 to 72 hours after activity, especially when you try and do something intense. I think it's very important to know that it is not caused by lactic acid. I know a lot of people think it is. That's been debunked. Sorry, fitness bros. Lactic acid actually drains out of your muscles pretty quickly after exercise. And instead, DOMS involves mild inflammation, sensory nerve responses, and it changes how muscles kind of feel and move. It's not tiny micro tears. Sometimes soreness just happens without significant tissue damage at all. Your nervous system plays a huge role in how movement feels. And so I'd like to tell you guys about this little scientific piece in all of this. In a 2018 study in pain, even small bouts of activity can trigger soreness without measurable muscle damage, which tells us that the nervous system matters way more than we think. It actually really highlights the role of the nervous system in perceived stress. So, what I'd like to suggest is that if you haven't already started to do this in your life, start warming yourself up with dynamic stretches before you even exercise. So that is like stretchy kind of movement buddies. In my experience and in my clients' experiences, if you do a quick dynamic stretch before you do anything else, not only will you perform better, but you will notice the difference in your body static stretch at the end of your exercise, and that will help you feel less sore the next day. Do these two things together, and it's a recipe for feeling amazing during and after your exercise. All of this to be said, DOMS can actually be fine, especially if you're adapting to something new. Remember my YMCA story where I can barely hold myself up the next day? That's real pain. That's not DOMS. That's not DOMS at all. And if you feel that you might have pushed yourself past your own limits, and that's not helpful, that isn't soreness that's going to make you stronger. It is a big screaming red flag that you have gone too far, especially if the soreness is so intense that you can't really live normally. So if you're experiencing some extreme soreness or pain every time you work out, especially if you're not getting any kind of change in your body over time, this often really points to a lack of recovery, some inadequate fueling, and maybe pushing through when your body and nervous system isn't really ready. Hydration and protein does help, but for many of us, especially those of us who are living with chronic pain or chronic illness, that could be a lot more complex, meaning that, yeah, hydration and protein will surely do some benefit over some damage, but it's not going to be the life-changing thing that it would be for somebody whose body isn't actively trying to work against them. Let's be so real. A little chronic pain context. People with fibromyalgia or CFS can experience soreness longer than a lot of us. But it is shown that moving safely and consistently can still help your body adjust and improve over time. Research actually shows that people with chronic widespread muscle pain report a higher pain intensity and a slower recovery from the same exercise compared to people without pain, which is, I think, every single person who is listening to this right now who deals with chronic pain is like, duh. Yeah, we all knew that. And it's one of those learning moments to say, don't compare yourself to what other people are doing, especially people who are like super able-bodied, because our nervous system does not process movement the same. We process movement so differently, making soreness and sensitivity persist way longer. And this is part of what is called central sensitization, where sensations are amplified. I'm sure you could have gotten that from the title, right? It is because our nervous system's so essentially wrecked that it perceives any kind of pain as something that is attacking you, right? For me, whether I'd end up with a lot of pain depended on a few factors. Usually, I have suspected endometriosis. So I know personally that I'm a little bit more sensitive to pain depending on where I'm at in my cycle. And then certain exercises would be immediate no's for me, especially if I knew that it would have some kind of like stress to my pelvic floor. So, Hence why you'll never catch me running, as an example. It's just, she's not in the cards for me. It's a hard no. I don't like it. Another really good example is trampolines, which makes me so sad because on my 26th birthday, I think it was my 26th birthday, we went to a trampoline park. And again, I used to love trampolines. When I did gymnastics, I was on that trampoline. I loved it more than I loved anything else. And so 26th birthday, we decided, yeah, trampoline park. It's going to be fun. You know what I got for a birthday present? A flare up. I got a flare up as a birthday present because the trampolines made everything kind of just hit and my pelvic floor got super angry and it did not work for me. Now, does that mean everybody with chronic pain should stay away from trampolines? No. Does that even mean that everyone with endometriosis needs to stay away from trampolines? Also no. It's very dependent on your body. You need to learn what's going to be good for you and not good for you because not all movement is bad. It's just that, especially once again, if you have chronic pain or chronic illness or chronic freaking anything, it is very much your nervous system responding differently. And you need to figure out how to pay attention to how your body feels over time. For many of us, especially those of us living with chronic pain, illness, ADHD, or just stressed out nervous systems, the real question isn't, was I sore? The real question is, how did my body respond after the fact? Because soreness is a form of stress, and your body doesn't know how to separate physical stress from emotional stress, from emotional overload, from poor sleep, from life stress, or anything at all. It does not know how to compartmentalize. It puts it all in the same bucket and it all counts. Isn't that unfortunate? The answer is yes, it is unfortunate. So essentially, if your system is already near its limit, adding more stress through movement doesn't automatically make anything really lead to any kind of progress, right? Sometimes, a lot of the time, it just leads to flare-ups and crashes and just flu-like feelings. I've heard a lot of that in my day. A lot of people saying that like they feel like the body aches of having a flu. Ugh, that sounds awful. Like, why would you want that? It sounds, ugh. And I used to get something similar, more just like flare-ups than flu-like symptoms. And it used to frustrate me so much. I'd avoid even trying again. I used to think to myself, like, this cannot be for me. My body hates me. I'll never be able to do that. That's why I stopped being trained by a personal trainer, because I was like, every single time I see you, I want to cease to exist. My body hurts. I'm flaring. Everything sucks. Does that sound familiar? I bet it does. And it sucks. It shouldn't sound familiar at all. Yet here we are. So how are we going to check in? In the moment, I want you to notice if your body or mind feel overwhelmed, if you're experiencing any rapid fatigue, some breathlessness, or that feeling that you've just gone a little bit too far. If you did, take a pause, take a breath, drink some water, and start modifying, because that still counts. If you experience anything like that, that's your go-to. You pause, okay? The next day, I want you to check in with yourself and see if your soreness is mild, like something a little walk could ease. If you are feeling calmer and more clear-headed, or even like just more relaxed in general. I also want you to check in and see how you slept. Did you have a restful sleep, or was it disrupted? Did you sleep badly? Did you keep waking up with restless leg syndrome? Because that would be bad. I also want you to see if your pain worsened with movement. And if it did, you probably went a little too far, but that's a learning moment, not a failure. It's okay. It just means that you're getting back to learning how to understand your body's cues, right? So a little science insert because I just love my studies. Here it is. Research shows that consistently doing regular physical activity is safe for most people with chronic pain, and over time, soreness patterns settle with consistent and appropriate movement. So take a moment and think about it a little bit. Did any part of today's movement leave you feeling lighter, calmer, or even a little bit more like yourself? Because often that is a better signal to know how you are than how sore you feel. The big question, how are we going to find what works for you? Because not only does movement that gets you moving, but movement that gets you feeling good afterwards is very important. Personally, I love dance cardio. I love putting on some music and dancing when I don't feel like doing my regular exercises, especially if I'm cleaning. I want you to pause here for a second. It's a whole video if you need to, and I want you to ask yourself, what kind of exercise would make you really want to move and make you feel really happy about it? Because that alone is telling you something. And if you do pause the video, I want you to think about it and write it down in the comments below, because I really love hearing what people do for exercise, because sometimes I look it up and I try it out myself because I get curious. Movement modalities will always be something intriguing to me. My little nerdy heart. So sometimes what you'll decide works for you will be small, like 5 minutes of stretching or doing a couple squats while you wait for your coffee in the morning. But remember that those little moments really add up and they make bigger workouts feel a lot easier. And for those of you who listened to last week's episode, you may remember that not every day or every week needs to be the same. Lock it in. You're a human being, and I don't know anybody who has consistent energy every single day. I don't. And anybody who does, I'm convinced might be a psychopath. For reference, in a 2020 study of the Journal of Pain, research found that consistent low intensity movement improved functional outcomes even for people with chronic pain, showing that soreness isn't always the indicator of progress. Here's a simple way to think about how you're going to move. And I need you to tattoo this to your brain. If movement costs more than it gives back, that's debt, not progress. Movement that actually helps will never scream. It may not even burn a crazy amount, and it should also never leave you in prolonged pain. Some helpful signs might include that you recover within that 24 to 72 hour period, that your soreness actually does quiet over a couple days instead of worsening, that you have more regulated energy, and that you're having a better, deeper, more restful sleep. A good rule of thumb that I like to tell all of my students is that fewer reps with amazing form, even just good form, will always, 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 always be better than extra reps with bad form. A little walk or a little movement on your couch will always be better than sitting stiff all day, and a gentle yin class will change your life and your body. And of course, will also be better than doing nothing. Taking breaks when your body needs it isn't weakness. It's intelligent, and you'll see a huge difference if you start moving slowly and intentionally and consistently. That's right. I know you have to move consistently, because while progress may feel subtle or boring, It will happen, I promise. So the next time you move, instead of asking, was I sore? Try asking yourself, how did my body feel later that day or even the next morning? Because guess what? Your body isn't lazy, and it's definitely not broken, and it doesn't need punishment to get stronger. Before you move today, I want you to check in. What feels achievable and what feels joyful? Not every movement has to be a huge workout. Even the small actions count. In fact, the small actions add up a lot of the time a lot quicker, especially if it's small actions versus nothing. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed recording this episode. If you want to support the Unusual Yogi Podcast, the biggest help you could give is leaving a review, sharing this episode with a friend or somebody that you know that you think this might help, and following me on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube at The Unusual Yogi. Your support helps me reach more people who are tired of the no pain, no gain myth, and are ready to move in a way that actually support their bodies. So until next time, take care of yourself in a way that actually works for you.